What is up, guys? My name is Iceberg of Iceberg's Gaming here. Today I'm going to be talking about gun manufacturers in Borderlands 2. I'm going to be telling you which guns are best for your playstyle and overall all the intricacies and small little details that you probably didn't know about guns and what makes them most effective for you. So if that sounds interesting to you, please stick around. Alright guys, thank you so much for sticking around. Once again, my name is Iceberg of Iceberg's Gaming, and today I'm going to be talking about weapons manufacturers and makers in Borderlands 2. If you guys have not noticed already, basically all manufacturers make unique style of weapons that can really influence your choice in whether you want to pick that gun up and use it to kill those badass enemies in Borderlands 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing a quick breakdown on every single manufacturer in Borderlands 2 for weapons. Now, I'm just going to be covering weapons in this video. I'll be covering shields and all that kind of stuff later, but today it's just going to be weapons. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to start out with Torque first. There should be some images on screen of what some of the Torque guns look like, as well as probably some gameplay of me using some Torque guns. But that's besides the point. Let's talk about them a bit, shall we? So the biggest thing about Torque guns is they are explosive. You cannot find a Torque gun without a grenade mod attachment, something weird like that. A lot of times they'll shoot miniature grenades that'll blow up like 3 seconds later. Sometimes they'll just shoot explosive rounds. Bottom line is, if you find a Torque weapon, it is going to do explosive damage. However, you will also notice with Torque guns, they tend to have a smaller magazine size, which is kind of understandable because they are explosive guns. However, that's something to keep in mind. Another thing to note about Torque, although they have this amazing explosive ability, their weapons tend to have very low velocity travel times. And this is a huge deal in Borderlands 2. It wasn't that big of a deal in Borderlands 1. But velocity travel times is basically how long it takes the bullet to leave your barrel as soon as you click the fire button and insert into the enemy's skull. You're going to notice that with these guns, it takes a very long time for these projectiles to actually hit your enemy and deal that amazing amount of explosive damage. That is something to note about Torque guns. So let's take a step back from these fancy Torque guns and let's shift into the Jacobs old-fashioned guns. Yes, I say old-fashioned because their guns are old-fashioned. They'll often be made out of wood. They have very kind of slow, natural guns you'd be familiar with kind of in the real world. Now, one thing about Jacobs that is very great is that they can fire as fast as you can shoot. So that means if you can pull the trigger very quickly, you happen to have one of those modded controllers, tisk tisk tisk, you are one of the fastest shots in the wild west. These guns are definitely for you. They don't really have any other abilities. I should also note that sniper rifles are kind of the exclusion for this rule. The exception for this rule. Sniper rifles are most often using bolt action technology because, like I said, Jacobs is one of those old companies, those guns that just have the old-fashioned kind of nostalgic kind of feel to them. So they're not going to be those flashy guns that most of you are probably looking for. However, if you want a solid, reliable gun that does have the ability to shoot as fast as you can pull the trigger, Jacobs is definitely the manufacturer you're going to want to go with. But you guys probably don't want to hear about that old-fashioned stuff. Let's move into something a little bit more flashy, a little bit more Borderlands-like. Let's move over to Maliwan. Maliwan is famous for one thing and one thing only, and that is elemental damage. If you find a Maliwan gun, you are most certainly going to have some sort of elemental effect, such as corrosive, slag, fire, or shock, because guess what? All of their guns have some sort of elemental ability on them, which is amazing. It is cool. Their guns always look fresh. They have some nice art on them. They're very colorful. But the main thing about Maliwan guns is they will always have some sort of elemental effect on them, which is very cool. So you've seen the flashy Maliwan guns with all their elemental effects. Let's move over to kind of the classic, the lots of fire, the high bullet count, those kind of guns. Let's move over to Vladov. Now, Vladov is very cool. They're just like they were in Borderlands 1, where their guns have an extremely high rate of fire. They're famous for those amazing SMGs and assault rifles that have giant clips. They also are very good for classes like the gun Zerker, because they seem to have minigun sight barrels where the longer you hold down the trigger, the more bullets do come spewing out of that red hot barrel. So if you do happen to be the gun Zerker, you're going to want to look for those Vladov guns. They have a high fire rate, so You can have both in one hand. I'm sorry, you can have one of these miniguns in one hand, another one in your other hand, and you can just do work all day long holding down the trigger. But fire rate might not be for you, and that is fine, because there is plenty more makers to choose from. So we're going to move down to the Hyperion Corporation. Yes, Hyperion Corporation, those are who makes all of the kind of the fancy, the highest tech guns in the game. So what is their kind of special ability? Well, that is accuracy. Accuracy is a big deal in any game, any shooter, any FPS, any RPG, period. Accuracy is a huge deal. You're going to need to get those critical hits in this game. That is a bigger deal than it has been any other game, just because of the massive amounts of health enemies have and the massive amount of damage critical hits do. So accuracy is a big deal. So I said accuracy. Now exactly what does that mean? Do they have starting initial accuracy? Yes, they have very high starting initial accuracy, but another ability that they do have is the longer you hold down the trigger, the more accurate the gun gets, which is very, very cool. So that means if you have a gun that does a lot of damage, has a lot of bullets in the clip, you hold that thing down, it is going to be pinpoint accurate by about your 4th or 5th shot. This is great for fighting bosses that have a lot of health, where you're going to empty multiple clips into your foe. So far we have covered Jacobs, Vladov, Torque, and Hyperion, as well as Maliwan. You cannot forget those elemental guns. So what else do we have? Well, you know those red chests, they're scattered all around Borderlands 2. They have the words doll on them. Well, that is not just a coincidence. Dahl is an amazing weapons manufacturer as well, so let's talk about them. What makes Dahl guns so great, you might ask? Well, that is their customizability of fire rate. Yes, fire rate. We talked about fire rate in Vlad, but this is completely different. These guns maintain a certain amount of accuracy as well as a certain amount of fire rate. So what does that mean? Well, I'm here to explain it to you. That means that your guns might do full auto when not ADS and 3-round burst when ADS, or vice versa. This makes these guns much more accurate, much more precise, much more customized, and overall amazing guns. It's great to do 3-round burst shots in Borderlands 2. You can hit the crit zone without losing your accuracy. As well as if you need to spray and pray, you can just go to the hip fire and own all of your enemies that way. So we're almost done. We only have 2 more manufacturers left. So let's get right into it. Let's first talk about Theodore. I always refer to Theodore, but I just noticed today there is no H, so I'm just still going to call it Theodore because that's what I enjoy calling it, but you can call it however you want to pronounce it. Tedio, I'm not even going to try. So basically what these guns have, they have this special ability called explosive reloading. Now explosive reloading, I did an entire video on it. If you guys want to see it, it's kind of cool, it's kind of interesting. There's some tips and tricks about it. However, it's not all that vital to this. But basically, whenever you reload, your gun is going to be chucked into the air at your enemy, doing grenade damage, which is very cool, very innovative. I'm very happy Gearbox implemented something like this. However, it's not all that useful for a few reasons. The first reason is whenever you reload, it does this grenade animation, which is cool. However, you lose all the ammo currently in your clip. So all of you premature reloaders, please don't take that the sexual way. I meant that quite literally. If you reload, you press the X button before your gun has exhausted all of its bullets, you sick-minded 10-year-olds out there, you. But anyway, if you do happen to reload before you've exhausted all of the bullets in your clip, your gun is going to be thrown like a grenade and all of your bullets are going to disappear with it, making your grenade do much more damage. However, that prized ammunition is going to be gone, forever lost in the Borderlands wastes. So overall, Theodore guns really aren't all that great in my opinion. However, there's one more manufacturer and they are a great one, and that is Bandit. Bandit is brand new to Borderlands 2. It's very cool. I'm glad they added a new manufacturer. I'm very happy. Now they have one use and one use only, and that is massive magazine size. Yes, massive magazine size. Magazine size are the biggest in the game. If you want that kind of giant 200 shot magazine size, you're going to want to look for Bandit guns. Just like Bandits, they don't know how to shoot. They don't have very good accuracy. So they just want to hold down the trigger and sit there and never have to worry about reloading. So that is why the Bandit brand is here. So let's do a very quick recap. I'll start from the top here. Jacob's weapons, they're going to fire as fast as the trigger is pulled. Theodore has that amazing, actually not so amazing ability. When you reload, you're going to throw your gun like a grenade. Vladov has their very extreme high rates of fire. Torque has their explosive ammunition. Doll has the burst fire and full automatic, depending on if you're zoomed in or not. Dolls has very highly accurate guns. Hyperion has the very kind of cool, high-tech, accurate guns. And then we move on to Maliwan, which of course does elemental damage of all sorts. You can't find a gun without elemental damage if it's made by Maliwan. And then finally Bandit Brand, which I just talked about, which has the largest magazines in the game. So guys, I think that's going to about conclude it. Maybe I'll throw in a couple of tips and tricks here. You're going to want to use these to your advantage. Now that you know this information, how do you use it? Well, it completely depends on your class. If you are a class that favors sniper rifles, you're going to want to use kind of Hyperion guns that have very high accuracy. However, if you happen to be a class that put a lot of skill points into elemental damage, you might want to try to find some Maliwan guns. You want to try to find some Maliwan guns. Correction, you are going to want to find some Maliwan guns in Borderlands 2. That is going to make your character much more of a tank to deal with if you happen to have some elemental skills. And then finally, if you happen to be the gunzerker, you're going to want either some flat off guns or maybe some bandit guns where you can just hold down the trigger and just let the bullets fly non-stop. So guys, that is going to conclude this video. I hope you did enjoy. I have plenty more videos coming similar to this. I'm going to be doing overlays of every single shield in the game specific to classes, as well as grenade mods, and there's one other thing. Oh no, I already did relics. I think that's it. Grenade mods as well as shields to paint on your character. So that sounds interesting to you. Oh, and class mods. Consider clicking that subscribe button right above so you can see when those videos come out. Or if you just like this kind of stuff in general, consider clicking that subscribe button. If you also want to leave this video a like, I would really appreciate it. But of course, not necessary. If you have any questions, comments, concerns for me, please leave those down below. So I think that's going to about do it, guys. So once again, thank you for watching and have a great day.